blab a lot. I mentioned before that I have stopped by the table, Marshall Arachnids, several times and talked briefly to Brian and Jessica. And I wanted many times to sit there and talk and blab like I'm blabbing right now. The problem is I know they are always busy. Amazing displays. I tell you what, folks, and I don't think I've ever said this in a show. I feel they have one of the best reptile invertebrate displays I've ever seen at a reptile show. Everything is concise and in order and showing so well. Beautiful displays. We're going to talk more about that in just a minute. The thing about Ryan and Jessica is that they're developing this great name in the hobby because they're involving themselves. I'm going to hide this because I think that I am hiding half of me too. Ryan, yeah, that's probably not bad. Ryan and Jessica are developing this great name because they're moving forward so quickly in the hobby, doing great things, quality animals. They're investing their time in the animals, but also in the network that's out there and social media. It's just so fun to see what they're doing in the hobby and see them good people moving forward. Marshall Arachnids has donated in the past to the 12 Supreme Days of Christmas, and I wanted to thank them very much for that. But I can't wait tonight because we're going to talk about spiders, we're going to talk about snakes, and we're going to talk about inverts, and we're going to actually talk about geckos, Nanette.
I was going to say, we're talking about all my favorite things.
Can you sing that song?
You know what's no, you know that. You know what's really fun with this? Because you put them in the back, quiet, and you put them in the background, and every time you say something goofy or you talk about blabbing too much, you can see them laughing and talking back and forth. I love it when we do these because they shake their heads like, yeah, he's still.
It's not what I'm saying; it's the way I look. I think.
I don't know what it is.
Ryan, Jessica, you're still here. I promise
we're still here.
Brought him on.
I cannot believe that. And everything that I said in the beginning, I spend a lot of time preparing for some of these shows, some a lot more than others. I spent, I think, 5 minutes preparing for this show simply because,
nice.
You know why? It was so easy. I put down about 4 or 5 questions and I thought this is going to be, I'm just going to throw something out there and you guys are going to cover it like champs and professionals. I know you guys and I just cannot wait for this presentation, for this interview.
So are you saying you have no spreadsheets tonight?
I don't have a spreadsheet. I do have a Google Doc, and I'll never look back. And I've got it right here. So if you see me looking down, that's because I'm lost and I don't know what to talk about next. But what I like to do is, and folks, if you have a question, type question in all capitals and then ask your question. And like Nanette said, we're going to, if it's on topic, we'll ask it. If it's something a little bit different than what we're currently talking about, we'll start and we'll put it aside until the end, and we'll come back and answer all those questions at the end. Yeah, Frank, no spreadsheets tonight. Isn't that crazy? Ryan and Jessica, we always start these shows because I watch a lot of other interviews and a lot of other podcasts, and it's like jump right in and let's talk about geckos and let's talk about spiders. And sometimes, I think it's better to, I guess, learn a little bit about the people that we're interviewing, that we're talking to, so that this is more of a chat and more of a personal kind of thing. Tell us a little bit about, other than the whole business side and the animals, tell us a little bit about you two, if you don't mind.
Sure. You want me to start?
Mm-hmm.
First of all, thank you guys so much for having us. We feel privileged because we love you guys. You don't know this, but we've watched a lot of your content in the past, having to do with isopods. Mm-hmm. You were a great source of information for us when we got started. So it's awesome to finally be on here. We feel very privileged, so thank you. Also, if you guys follow us, having Jessica on camera never happens. So I don't want to say feel special, but feel special.
I do feel special. Thank you, Jessica.
Of course, she does not do that. She is the man in the chair, or in this case, the woman in the chair, if we call her. So
the pair in the chair. The two
pair
of
in
you.
the chair.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah. Did you lose us? There we go.
Oh, you're back. You're back.
Okay. All right. Let's keep it going. So I'm Ryan, Jessica. So we are lifelong hobbyists. We started our journey. Marshall Arachnids started when we were still zookeepers. So Jessica had the piece of paper. She's the legitimate zoologist. We met.
A 4-year degree is what he means.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
In zoology.
Yes, I do not. But we had the same job, which is amazing in and of itself. I weaseled my way in, which we can talk about that. But our background has always primarily consisted of reptiles and amphibians. So I started my journey working for a company called Josh's Furrows, which I think a lot of people are familiar with in the industry. From there, I left to pursue a career in zoology. I moved to Omaha and I interned for a year. I was lucky enough to just land an internship. I worked for a year for free. I went to Honduras. I got involved in a conservation project with amphibians down there. And then after a year of interning for free, I got offered a position. So I started working in the Desert Dome, working with reptiles and amphibians. If anyone's ever been to Omaha, I know there's not much in Nebraska, but the zoo is incredible. There's so much to see. It's going to take you a weekend to go through it. After that, I got a full-time position in Fort Worth, working at the Museum of Living Art, again, working with reptiles and amphibians. And then after 6 months of being there, Omaha called me back and said, hey, we have a full-time position for you in the amphibian conservation area, which is not open to the public, but it's like a biosecure quarantine facility working with endangered amphibians. And my job there was to breed amphibians in captivity for re-release in the wild. So I did that for a little while. And then I think I was there for a year? A year or two.
Yeah.
A couple of years. Yep. And then the amphibian, for lack of better words, sex doctor, she would come in and help us facilitate in vitro fertilization and whatnot. She got a job at Detroit, which I'm originally from Michigan. At Detroit Zoo. Yep. And then asked me if I wanted to come work for her and come home and have a full-time job there with her team. So I did that, and that's where I met Jessica. Now, all this time, the tarantulas and the arachnids were a personal hobby. I didn't have reptiles at home. I was just working with the spiders quietly and breeding them quietly and keeping them to myself. And I wasn't selling them. I was just learning about them. And then I met Jessica at Detroit Zoo. What was your title exactly?
I was technically an amphibian zookeeper, but I worked at the I apologize. The Belt Isle Nature Center in Detroit. So I was taking care of mammals and some reptiles and amphibians, and but it was primarily mammals. But I was kind of under the umbrella of the amphibian department, so I still had to attend their, weekly meetings and whatnot, and kind of meet all the amphibian keepers.
Yep, and then I was assigned to help her replumb her salamander tanks, and the rest is history.
I think that's probably the most unique introduction of two people ever in the history of the world. I really do. Yes, I replumbed her amphibian enclosures. So, Jessica, sure, the title that you had, was that above amphibian sex doctor, or is that a below amphibian sex? Were you working your way up toward the sex doctor?
Unfortunately, and the amphibian sex doctor was pretty high up there. I was very low.
Highly regarded. There's only a couple of those in the country.
Coveted position.
Yeah.
Which it should be.
Yes.
In all seriousness, I mean, oh my gosh, Honduras, the experience going from institution to an institution and seeing the animals, seeing the facilities, seeing the different methods of taking care of animals, that's something that, very, 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 very few people actually get a chance to do. So congratulations, but how exciting, incredible. Through that journey, did you start with spiders during the journey or before all this started?
Before the zookeeping career took off. Yep. Yeah. So I grew up a lifelong arachnophobe, very scared of spiders, irrationally so. Believe it or not.
Wow.
And one night someone put one in my hand. I did not want it in my hand. I didn't know there was going to be a spider in my hand. And it was kind of like a don't move situation. And I panicked. But I kept my cool, and I just started watching the animal and watching how gentle it was. And I could tell how in tune with its environment it really was. And it changed my life. And so then I hopped on Google because I was like, wow, I survived. And I started to look at more tarantulas, and I saw a pretty blue one. And I was like, is that a real animal? And she goes, yeah, but they're defensive. They're hard to breed. And I was like, that's the one I want.
Okay, that's the one.
I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure out how to breed them, because that was my mindset. I was working for Josh's Frogs. I was working for arguably the largest dendrobedded collection in the United States at the time. And my job was to breed animals. So I was like, well, if they're difficult, I'm going to figure it out. And then the zoo journey kind of helped me understand natural history, because I was kind of a bumbling idiot in a sea of exceptional scientists. And I had to prove myself. So I had to really pay attention and kind of be in their world and try to fake it till I made it. You know what I mean? So I learned a lot from them. And then it all just kind of applied back to my husbandry at home.
I really love that. I really love that. And I think that challenging some people will either sink them or it will bring the cream to the crop. And I think it shows a lot of character. If you can go the Big Bang Theory and just get hit with everything, and if you survive, you're going to be a superstar. If you don't, you'll find something else. And it gives you a lot of credit for being that superstar and rising to the top. So congratulations. That's not easy at all. Here's all the information. Here's all the responsibilities. Hope you survive and hope you do okay. And to hear your story, that's pretty cool.
Thank you. Yeah, it was. This is not a reality. It's really weird. Like everything has gone by so fast, and the whole thing has been a roll of the dice. To answer this question here really quick, the pretty blue spider was Poecilotheria metallica, the sapphire ornamental.
Okay.
Yep, like P metallica. Yep, you got it.
So that's not a beginner animal?
Well, it was Jessica's first animal, and she did just fine. I gave her first one.
Wow.
But generally speaking, no, it's not. But again, like with all animals, the more research you do and the more you understand the natural history and what they need to thrive, anything can be a beginner animal. It just depends on how much research you want to do and if that fits for you.
Yeah.
Right. Which is a controversial kind of stance I have, but that's the truth. Yeah.
Where do you see the controversy in that? Kind of elaborate if you don't mind.
Yep. So just generally speaking, Poecilotheria, the whole genus is very large. They're fast, and they can be defensive. And while we know tarantula venom is not significant, or I'm sorry, it's not fatal, they have what we would call medically significant venom. But the way I saw it, you don't want any of them to bite you, period, no matter where they're from. And yes, they're fast, but what if you just gave them what they needed to feel safe? And what if you used the tools and took the steps to maintain them safely? That being said, I don't keep venomous snakes or anything. I work with them, but I don't keep them. Just because I know I leave enclosures open sometimes. But the spiders are easy to deal with. So
Gotten better at it.
I've gotten better. Yeah. Thank you, the zoo world.
Unpleased.
And when you talk about the controversy and everything, the whole show could just go off the rails right now with the recent activities in the snake keeping, especially the venom. And we're not going to go there, but I think it's, and what I hear from you, and this emphasizes my point that's coming up, is that you have to have respect, you have to have knowledge, you have to have research, you have to have people in your network, close people that you can call up and say, hey, it's doing this, what do I do? Or should I, or can I? Or so again, hats off that you've built up this network, but also that you've taken, these other steps. So instead of just, oh, it's venomous, let me just start holding it and free handling it. And
which you bring up a good point. Let me just go ahead and we'll talk about this too, is we don't handle any of the spiders. We're pretty hands off. We really approach their husbandry more like you would fish. We give them what they need. We use bioactive substrates and soils and plants, and we're very hands off. And as a result, I think we see some really cool behaviors that a lot of people don't see. We apply a lot of other interesting husbandry techniques when it comes to spiders too. But we are very hands off. And I don't just tell someone this is what I would get for you if you're like, I'm scared of spiders, but I want a pet and I want something I can hold. I would never say that's a good one for you. But I'll certainly lay out the facts if someone's interested. You know what I mean? I'll try to steer them away from that because not everyone has the same perspective I do. That's something I've had to learn.
Do you is there any value at all for anybody to handle tarantulas other than obviously educational programs? I was introduced to a tarantula by and I've said the story, I've told the story many, many times, but by a person that really had the knowledge, and not just with the animals, but with handling people in that situation. And I would have never have gotten through it and never would have done it other than his patience and his ability to calm the situation way down. And having you hit the nail on the head, having the tarantula on your hand. Huge arachnophobia. And when you were talking about, you're starting to try to understand the behaviors and the makeup, and now it's not a spider, now it's an animal that you have curiosity about. Other than an educational situation like that, do you see any value in handling tarantulas or other spiders?
I don't. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, most of what you can observe with tarantulas to kind of learn respect for them, at least from my perspective, comes from observing them in their natural habitat in a comfortable environment. Handling kind of brings out a lot of defensive and unnatural behaviors, and again, in my opinion. So I get the most enjoyment out of them when they are in their own element.
Yeah, I would agree.
I look at it as kind of, and we're going to see some of your pictures in just a second here, and kind of show off this a little bit, but I kind of picture it as a dart frog keeper who isn't interested in, oh, I have a pet and I want to hold it and I want to squeeze it and I'll name him George. And it's not like that. I want this setup that mimics nature as much as possible. And that's the enjoyment of seeing the animal, not just survive, but thrive, right?
Right.
You're right. And I would say the exception, if I had to give one, would be the jumping spider community. And if people say they want to hold something and they're dead set on that, I might introduce them to that. And most of them, when they already come up to us, they have that in their head that because TikTok and social media and commercials are really hammering home jumping spider things. So but as far as tarantulas go, I kind of tell them they're ambush predators. They're not as curious, they're crepuscular. To handle them, you really have to, I couldn't just go into any of our enclosures any of our hundreds of enclosures and just pick one out. There's no way. So,
let's get into.
I would just recommend the jumping spiders.
Yeah, and that's great. I think that's one of the thrills about the hobby in the last probably 5 or 6 years is that, you know, we had tarantulas over here and we had the different spiders, and then this whole introduction, but this this escalation of people keeping jumping spiders, I thought was so cool in that it got people introduced to maybe some different avenues and more than anything, I guess, understanding spiders is a big, you know, furry complex, and it's not just tarantulas, it's not just black widows, it's other and recluse, and it's all kinds of. In my, you know, the funny thing is that I mentioned before arachnophobia and everything. As a kid, you know, on the windowsill, little black and white jumping spiders, and I'd hold them and back and put them there and find a little fly and try to give them, and it was like it was a different animal, not a spider. So the whole jumping spider thing has been so cool.
Yeah, and I was the opposite. Jumping spiders scared me the most.
Really?
Oh yeah, because they were quick and they watched you, and they were really inquisitive, and I was like, oh, don't like that.
Good call. The ones that scared me the most was the ones that sat in the fields and spun their webs and then were across bushes, and as you're running as a kid, you run through and then you've got the big spider in your chest, and you pee your pants and all the other boys laugh at you. Those are the ones.
Right.
Not that happened to me. I'm just saying.
But I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Wow. Tell us a little bit about your setup. I mean, you know, you mentioned hundreds of enclosures, just kind of a ballpark, just so people get aware of, you know, the magnitude, what all you're kind of keeping there.
So we're a little unique in the sense that we don't use shoe boxes necessarily. All of our, I guess, exhibits, you would call them, we house most of our animals in exoterrace enclosures. The very elaborate, simple but elaborate comparatively. And we have baker's racks that just kind of go around the room, and we can just go from enclosure to enclosure to enclosure. So I would say, as far as the tarantula breeder goes, we don't have very many breeder animals. We work with what we like, and when we give what we have, very large, elaborate setups, I guess, as far as the standards are concerned. And then in the middle here, we've got babies and maybe juveniles, which are still, if you can look behind me here, once they reach a certain size, they're in exoterra for an opening enclosures. So we don't do the floor to ceiling shoe boxes or anything like that. We also are big on heat and light. So we provide our animals with thermal gradients, and we try to convey that to our customers and explain the importance of that. And they know that tarantulas are poikilothermic, so they regulate their body heat just like reptiles do, which in some ways has hurt our business, but I think it weeds out people that we may or may not want to work with. You know what I mean? Because they want to take it seriously, and they're going to pay attention to these small details that we see on a daily basis, and other breeders might not. And that's not to talk bad about breeders. We have so many friends in the industry and we just absolutely love them, and what they do works. But as far as like our perspective is, we want to give them more. So I would say relatively, we don't have very many breeder animals, maybe 100.
About 140 maybe.
And with that, we're able to produce a lot of animals. So, and I think that's because we're paying attention to those small details. I'm very happy with how many animals we can produce out of what little we actually have. So live plants, cork tubes, cork hollows.
A lot of space.
A lot of space. We really work with, we give the individual species what they might need seasonally. We use our space well. Chest level, we try to get a 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Up top, we're looking at 80 degrees. On the bottom, we might be looking at 65. So that kind of limits what we choose to work with. It's like, can we provide what that species might need seasonally? to get what we need out of them breeder wise. Right.
I'm assuming that some like it a little bit warmer, some are more
Some like it hot.
Some like it hot, some like don't like it hot. Is that true?
Oh, yeah.
Position?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like reptiles. They're from different parts of the world.
Some like it hot in July, some like it cold in December.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do you try to accommodate that? Because I'll give an example with the Australian geckos. I know season opposite, but I make them adjust to my schedule, unfortunately, simply because I can't manage. I can't manage that. I can't manage two varying seasons in this house.
Yeah, it's a challenge, which also limits the amount of species we work with. But definitely, because on a standard baker's rack, you're looking at maybe 7 feet in height, and there's a 0 to maybe 15 to 20 degree difference on the bottom versus the top, at least the way we heat the room. So we try to take that into consideration with every species we're working with. But yeah, we'll try to seasonally cycle them. And like the blue spider I was talking about earlier, I don't think we would be nearly as successful with them if we didn't rain on them and give them the heat that they needed and then dry them out. So yeah.
It's hard because I want to jump into the pictures, but I'm going to ask everybody's patience for just a second. I want to dwell a little bit more on the spiders. And actually, in these pictures that we're going to show, we're going to get into spiders, and we'll kind of touch on this again then. But from a spider standpoint, give us a feel for how much time it takes you to manage all of your spiders, from feeding to watering. Is it a couple times a week kind of situation where you go in and feed, and how long does that last? And I know that you're taking care of babies like crazy, so give us a little bit of a inkling on how much work that is.
Yeah, so it's really difficult balancing traveling nearly every weekend, almost 3 or 4 weekends a month, and taking care of everything in this room. But I want to say some days, plus like shipping out orders every week for both of our businesses, it's really hard to get a handle on how many hours per week we spend. But
it's more of a feel thing.
Yeah.
It's all day. I'll tell you that right now.
It's
all day. Like just like you said, 7 a.m. to 10, 11 o'clock at night every day.
Yeah, at least 4 days a week. Sometimes both of us.
Yeah.
What kind of works for me, the only thing that works for me is I couldn't be downstairs for 12 hours a day. So I'll go downstairs for a couple of hours, and I'll time out my sections, and I'll feed a section. Then I'll come upstairs and I'll social media for a while. Then I'll go back downstairs, and that works really well. And I've been retired for about 5 or 6 years, and I actually did that at work too, where I would work on managing a project, and then I would go into the details, and then a couple of hours later I'd go and talk to I had to have things changing, or else I just couldn't focus for 8 or 10, 12 hours a day. So that's what's helped for me, at least. But I have to realize also, if I sit down and I'm doing social media, I got animals downstairs that have to be fed. You have Wally, you have 1 hour to do this, and then get your butt up and get down there.
Which our followers, bless them, they've been very patient with us. But we started out this business with some very controversial content, and we had a message to spread, and we wanted to be very detailed and specific as far as content goes. And then everything just took off like a wildfire, and then it's like we don't have time to do anything with a camera. So sorry guys, just got to be patient with us.
Yeah
That's the hard part, is finding the balance, and and accepting that you can't do every single thing. And oh my gosh, on TikTok there's this kind of feature that I could do with social. I don't have time to look into that, and got to move on. It's animals first, social media second, customers maybe second, then social media third.
There you go.
Like there it is. That's very true. Yeah.
I want to jump into the pictures, because you're talking about shows, you're talking about travel. Give us a feel. I lost my mouse here, but give us a feel. Yeah, you did. You hit it on me.
I did not.
Give us a feel for how many shows you're doing a year. And folks, we're going to get into animals in just a second, I promise.
Oh, I haven't even counted this year. Last year we did, I think we almost did 40 shows last year, and I want to say it's
We'll be past that this
probably be past that by the end of this year, for sure.
Yeah, which has been great.
Yeah.
You know, and we've been running with Tristan from Gecko Junkie. That kid never stops. And we've been working on side projects with him. And all he does is the road, which has been great for our business. But with producing the animals that we have to kind of walk it back a little bit. But yeah, it seems like every other weekend at the very least, we're in a different city.
When you talk about Tristan, though, are you doing physical shows, or are you also doing the online auction things?
So both simultaneously.
Okay, that's what I kind of thought.
Yep,
right?
Yep. So we are doing them at the shows. Yep.
Oh, God bless you. Oh my
that's
gosh.
like a 12-hour Saturday and a 12-hour Sunday. Travel home, go straight back to work.
Because we got to send invoices on Sunday. All those customers' animals have to go out on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then somewhere in between, we've got to circle the room and make sure everyone's good. Luckily, spiders are very forgiving, but we've got a lot of reptiles here too. So
it's a lot. I seriously, when I said that in the beginning, folks, I knew that they were busy, but I didn't realize you guys were this busy. And I don't know if these are doing justice to the beautiful displays that you have at these shows. So when you do a show, and jump in, if you want to mention something on these pictures, jump in and stop me at any time.
Sure.
But when you do go ahead, Nanette.
I like where he's standing on this one. He looks at the spider body.
That works.
Yeah.
Oh,
that was perfect.
Oh my gosh.
If they could only always turn out like that. That'd be great.
It turned out really cool.
You have to have that in the back of your mind that, okay, I have to be positioned right here. When I've got to share this with, and maybe nobody will get it, but when I see this picture, I think of Johnny Quest and the big eyeball with the legs. Nobody's going to get it. Never mind. Go fast forward, Wally.
There's Richard.
Who is this?
Everyone. That is Richard Stewart. He runs the Tarantula Collective. That's that social media project.
Yes. Very cool.
Yes. So when we first met him, I was like, we're not going to get along because I kind of challenged some of his work. But he ended up being the nicest, sweetest dude. And we ended up doing a podcast together, and he was very open to constructive criticism, and he had me on, and he's like, that makes sense, and he was wonderful. And that's all I've ever wanted from these people who are kind of established in the hobby, is to just kind of like, because you have to understand, when we go to these shows, folks like Richard, everyone knows Richard. And then they're trying to buy an animal from Marshall Arachnids, and they've already watched YouTuber content. And a lot of what we were saying historically was kind of conflicting with kind of what everyone was saying. So I was like, hey, man, we should get together, do a podcast, and just get it out there. Let's just talk about it. And I couldn't be happier with how that worked. He was wonderful. So shout out to Richard.
Is that one? Have you been together with one podcast or more than one?
Just with Richard, I think we did one so far. We should do a follow-up. He's another busy dude. He is constantly his content is beautiful. Even if you're not into the tarantulas, I highly recommend you check him out on YouTube. He makes beautiful, he packages everything really nicely. And that's why I was like, that's the guy I got to talk to, because he can do something I can't do.
Okay, I'm going to segue off of that point, because this is a question that I have. You're doing shows, and I tell you what, folks, when you walk by their booth, it's them, because of the purple, because the logos, the pictures, how the displays look. You turn your head, and within a half a millisecond, that it's them. It's Marshall Arachnids.
That's good to know.
How do you have you? how many years have you been doing shows? And my follow-up question is, how have you progressed through building the display that you have now and that learning process, and what inspires you as you've taken that journey? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yes, great question.
Okay.
So I'll start with what inspires us. Heavy metal music. And have you guys Star Wars fans?
Oh yeah.
So our presentation is very much like the Empire.
Oh.
And at home, we're very much a rebel base, if that makes any sense.
Oh my gosh. How cool is that?
But there's music that inspires this aesthetic for me personally, and Jessica just seems to go along with it. So I don't know. But how long have we been doing shows for?
I think Schaumburg 2021 was our very first show.
Yep. So we right out the gate signed up for a banger. We went straight up for an NARBC just because I don't know, that's how we do. And then we did another NARBC, and that's where I met Tristan in St. Louis. Yeah. And I have to credit Tristan from Gecko Junkie because he has spent years before meeting us on the road. So he knew what works. He knew how to get stuff in and out of shows easily. So it was a really nice pairing with our aesthetic and then his knowledge of how the shows work. That's why I'm really proud of that one there. There's the Empire right there.
When I think of your displays, this is what I picture in my mind. And you know, so normally people are walking through the show and they see a table, maybe two, maybe three. They see our table, and it's animals and supplies and a sign in the back, and maybe the table cover. But you guys have put a lot of, you can tell, you guys have put a lot of thought into how everything should be established in, not on your tables, in your display. And I that's very critical how I said that, because it's the whole presentation. It's just not, you know, I'm going to show the spiders, and I'm going to show the crested geckos, and I'm going to show the enclosures. And we're going to talk more about these enclosures in just a second, but it's the whole ambiance. It's the whole display that you're striving to make the presence for Marshall Arachnids. That's my feeling.
That's awesome. That's really cool to hear, because we're always just so in and out, and I don't know. To be honest, it's such a selfish endeavor. Like, I want to look at what I would want to see, so I just make it that. I don't really talk to people about it, so I don't really know how they feel about it. But if I was scared of spiders and I was curious, I wanted to see them in a different light. You know, when I see the color purple, to me, it's very strong. It's very beautiful. So how do I make that look aesthetically pleasing and approachable? Now, some people who are afraid of spiders, nothing's going to help them. But for a lot of folks, they're at least a little curious. So they'll swing by and be like, "This is beautiful, but it's not for me." But we at least brought them over. You know?
Is there, and I completely agree. Is there anything that you look at as far as adding in the future?
Oh, this is not enough.
Constantly evolving.
Yeah. I see big, bright neon signs, going taller vertical. I mean, here's the thing. At every show, we never have enough space. I always like these shows to make it look like we're so much larger than what we really are. Because like I said, we're rebel base over here in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere. But
you know that you say that
enough.
It's never enough, and you're always evolving. You're always looking at other vendors. You're always looking at pictures on. At least I am. But you know, that's a good point. That's a really good point too. In that, you know, you look at this. This isn't the, you know, Tristan Gecko Junkie booth size. This is just over 2 tables.
Yep. Yeah. So that's another thing. And NARBC shows, we have to think outside the box because there's never enough space. It's also very expensive.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do we make the most of our space and get the most product and animals in there, but also make it not like a clustered mess and be very beautiful. The word beautiful is always in my head. Now I know that's subjective, but it's like, how do we make it pretty? Yeah.
Very cool. Again, I love how you blend all the colors in together and make just such a phenomenal display. It's one too, though, that as you're drawn in to look at things, you find more and more and more and more pieces of information. Take a look at this, folks. Yeah. So if you do isopods, anybody here, go to a show and look at, and I'll throw my hand up too. It's isopods in a cup. Well, what do they look like? Well, they're gray and they have white stripes, and that's why they're called zebras. Yeah, but what do they look? Okay, never mind. I'm going to go somewhere else. But you're showing pictures here of all these spiders, all these tarantulas, and that's just not, the end of it. You have all kinds of information here that draws people in and then keeps drawing them in. And here's the key in my mind. And I know you've thought this through, but it holds people there. It makes them look, it makes them ask questions, and it keeps them at your table.
I like the idea of them having to ask questions. Now, if you notice, there's just pictures there. Now, of course, you're just selling pictures. It's like, no, guys.
Picture for $80.
Yeah, but they're all here. You have to ask me to see them. In some ways, I feel like that might hurt us, but two things: prevents sticky fingers, and two, it like just opens that channel of communication. And we like to let our spiders hide. We don't like to just expose them. So everything that we bring the spiders in, they have the ability to hide and be unseen. So the pictures help with that.
Do you think that people walking by do this kind of an identification in their mind? Oh, tarantulas. Oh, they have this tarantula because I see the blue and oh, that's that one. That's the one that I wanted.
Yeah, for sure. The pictures help tenfold. I mean, and it's also, we can show them what they're going to look like when they grow up, because again, we're producing a lot of what we offer. So a lot of what we offer are babies. And so it just kind of helps. The pictures are aesthetically pleasing. So it's like, wow, that one's cool. Tell me more about that one.
Yes, yes. Just love this display, folks.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll see where we go with it. And it's definitely not done. But for now, it's okay.
Always a work in progress.
Yeah.
And I know I'm spending a lot of time here on these pictures, but guys, if you're doing shows, I've said this over and over and over and over and over again, walk around, find the coolest displays and take notes and take pictures and talk to the vendors, the breeders, and get a feel for what you want. Maybe this isn't up your alley. Maybe this is not what you want, but at least this should be in your conversation if you're thinking about doing a reptile show.
Definitely.
This doesn't look like a reptile show.
So there's our rebel base. We live upstairs there, which is not finished yet. But we've got the garage area for the dry goods. And then we've got it to where we can pull right up through, load up the trailer right underneath that drive-through there. And then the animals are in the 30 by 30 foot section to the right there. And that's all climate controlled. Yeah. That's where we're at right now.
Very cool. So the supplies have more room than you do upstairs. The animals have more room than you do upstairs.
No,
that's the way to do it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No,
definitely.
No.
So wait a minute. You don't just do spiders? I don't get it.
It's interesting. You're right. There are some geckos that have found their way in.
Yes.
I think
so
it was. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Crested geckos. We've got day geckos. We've got viper geckos. Morning geckos. Is that it for geckos? We got cave geckos.
I saw a couple pets.
And we've got some.
Yeah, we got pets, of course.
And we've got cave geckos. So yeah, we've got a few.
Cave geckos. Yep.
That's not cave gecko.
And no, that is not a cave gecko. Good call. Spot on. Well done.
Well, I thought you said cave gecko.
No,
like it was right
and
there.
I said that because I know at Schaumburg I was walking through and I saw your red lily whites and it was like, I'm not a lily white person, but good gosh, if I were to buy one, I would buy this animal right here. It was so beautiful. Just incredibly beautiful. And then right next to it is cave geckos. And so my mind was immediately, squirrel, cave geckos.
Cave geckos are fantastic. They're very underrated. I'm excited to watch them grow.
My gosh, yes, absolutely. We've talked about crested geckos, and we're going to see a couple of other animals here, and then we're going to see some spiders. But eventually, folks, if you come to this channel to talk about geckos, we're going to talk about some other stuff. At the end, we're going to talk geckos. I'm going to make Ryan and Jessica talk about one specific gecko.
Wow.
So you're keeping other stuff too here.
And that was a fairly recent decision. Once we started working with Tristan and supporting him with this Run at Reptile Expo, the virtual platform, it just makes sense. Again, professionally, that's what we did for many years, and that's kind of our origin. So it just kind of made sense. We'll just kind of work with what we like and diversify a little bit.
He is judging everyone.
Yeah, yes. Philomedusa bicolor is that one. What's the common name?
Giant waxy
monkey tree frog. That's a pet.
Not thinking about breeding them?
I would love to. I know what it takes to breed them.
A lot.
And there's not enough space for that.
Yeah.
Here.
Is it similar to red-eyed tree frogs?
Far more complex. So in the wild, females will gather around a stream, a fast-moving stream, and they watch the males grapple. And the males will cross over on branches overhanging the water, and they will fight and grapple and throw themselves off or throw the opponents off. And then the winner gets to breed females loosely. There's a lot more to it, but that's so you need space, you need running water, you need a lot of water.
A lot of males.
Like 10 to 1 female. And these animals are very large. So Philomedusa bicolor get 7-8 inches, 10 inches maybe.
Big.
They're big. They're big animals. So Justice Frogs made them this year.
Oh, did they?
Captive bred. They did.
Nice.
And they've got one of those walk-in grow tents, a big one, like 10-foot one.
Nice. I would think that that's what you need is a major area dedicated.
Yeah, which is awesome. I would love to do that, but
yeah,
it's got to be a specialty.
I was going to say, did you hear him say that he didn't have the space? And he can understand that he doesn't have space.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah.
We've already talked about knocking this wall down at some point. And
oh my gosh.
Get a little more room.
But you're talking about it. It's in the back of your mind. You're thinking about it and you're always planning and what if, and maybe I can do this. It doesn't mean that it has to, come to fruition. It just means that you're thinking about those plans. Is this the emerald? Oh, emerald dubia. I know that's not the name.
The what?
I believe they're calling them magnificent emerald roaches, but
that's a roach.
Yeah.
Pseudoglomerus magnifica.
It looks like
so Jess has the green ones and the bronze
emerald
ones.
roach. Are you by chance are you breeding them?
Yes, we've produced 2 clutches of the bronze variety that are from some locale in China. And then these emerald ones are based in Vietnam. There's a couple different localities, but only 2 are in the US hobby right now. And I have the ones from Southeast Vietnam, which of course the exact locale is escaping me right now. But I have a couple adult females that I'm hoping are gravid now, and several males that have been very busy. So hoping for babies of the emerald ones very soon.
And some people in the chat will know this, some people won't, but this is a very, very sought after animal.
Yes.
It's a very expensive animal.
Somebody said
they're beautiful.
They look beautiful.
It's hard to believe they're a cockroach.
And they're super easy. The husbandry has been easier than almost any other roach species we've cultivated. And I've done probably 35 plus species in the last couple of years.
Wow. And I don't like to throw around, names of other potential competitors. I know you guys don't care, but is Kyle from Roach Crossing breeding these right now?
Yep. And I believe all of these came from his stock. So these are all produced by him. All of my breeders, yeah.
Well,
I'll throw out another name.
Hats off to you guys.
Tanya from Fear Not Tarantulas. They have them. I'm pretty sure they are breeding them.
Very
cool. You can check out their website, Fear Not Tarantulas.
What's that? Are they
feeders or are they? Well, no.
I'm backing off of this one. Why? I'm sitting back and listening to the answer.
I'm just asking.
Even if they were a lot cheaper, they would probably make bad feeders because they have a very hard exoskeleton and they are very they don't move a lot. So they're a little bit too expensive to be feeders, but I don't think a lot of insectivores would be interested in eating them anyway. To be honest,
so they're more of a pet.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to make that. Yeah. I'm going to throw it out there. How much do you think these run? Yeah, just take a wild stab at it.
Well, they're saying they're very expensive. Multiple people have said that. It looks like, I don't know, 500
a piece. No, they're not. I don't think they're 500.
It's a group.
A group for 500?
I don't know.
You might be spot
on. Depends on the size
of
the crew.
That's a pretty good guess.
We paid more than I wanted to pay for them. I'll say that.
But they'll pay off.
But the thing is that this is so rare, that if you start breeding them, there's going to be a huge demand, and you guys will be fine.
3 for 130. Is that right?
Sounds right.
That's better than what we paid for them. So great. That's great.
But that, it's supply and demand, it's time of the year, it's all kinds of other stuff going on. So
definitely.
Trying to be mean.
No. I understand that. I'm sorry. What is this?
Scary.
That is a horrid king assassin bug.
Ooh,
that's a new project for us.
It's an assassin.
Which we just started working with that species in a different assassin bug species, and I had no clue anything besides the basic husbandry of them. And they've grown on me so fast.
They're pretty fun to watch.
They're not like aggressive like I thought they might be. They would probably be fine with handling, but again, I'm not the type of person to handle potentially venomous bugs that can hurt me, but they're awesome.
They're a lot of fun to watch.
They're fun to watch hunt. Yeah.
So this is a different species than the common assassin bug in the hobby?
Yes. So I'm not exactly sure of the species that you're thinking of, but there's a ton of native assassin bugs. There's a few native species that actually glue dead bugs to their exoskeletons and disguise themselves as just gross stuff on the ground, so nothing like other predators can't find them. But this species is from Africa, I believe.
If I'm not mistaken, Paul's Pills is working. Paul Sutton from Paul's Pills and Helena are working with these. If you're looking for any information, so let's see here. Okay, this is a spider, right?
Not quite.
Not quite. This is
about the same number of legs, but.
So those are tailless whip scorpions or whip spiders. They are arachnids. A little different than the spider. I think they're far more fascinating, to be honest with you. They're incredibly fun to watch, incredibly fast. That's a pair of Damon diadema. What's the common name for diadema?
Tanzanian giant whip spider.
So Jess has a few whip spiders.
Nice.
A lot of them, yeah.
Very and a good
incredible
market for these too.
The people who own them get it. They're fun.
I watch Aquarimax Pets, and Russ Wilson has these. Yeah, and they just when he brings them out, they just look so stinking cool. They have a
freaky little things.
Freaky little things, yes, exactly.
No.
This is a spider.
Yeah,
Tell me this is a spider.
Yeah. So
Spiders.
that fun story about this picture. So that is my first blue tarantula that I bought with her first set of babies, which is the reason we're here today. So that breeding, that pairing is what started Marshall Arachnids, more or less. And there she is basking with her babies, where she's basking is about 100 degrees. And I believe there's babies in there. Yeah, I see little babies in there.
In between her legs and on
Yep.
the side.
Yep. So very special picture to me.
How many do they have at a time in a clutch?
Yeah.
I don't know what you call it.
Sack or
Brood.
Yeah, brood. Anywhere from, it depends on the species, but you're looking at anywhere from 20 babies to 500 to 1,000. 2,000. It just depends on the species. This particular one, I think she had 80 babies for her first.
Wow. Really? Do you keep the babies all together after they've hatched?
That's a great question. So with this particular species, I will leave them with mom for quite a while. So we do something a little different. A lot of arachnid breeders will pull egg sacs and rear them separately from their mothers. We like to leave them with mom and let her go through the motions because we supply them with heat and moisture. Our babies, we've noticed, tend to come out quite significantly larger than if we were to pull them and rear them in an incubator. So once they hatch, I will leave them with mom and I will feed them in there for a little while. And then the fun begins of trying to pull them out. But I have left babies in there with mom for up to a year.
Really? Wow.
Okay, you're forcing me to ask this question. So I'm going to go back to my fish days and discus and pulling babies. And it's cool if you can feed them. But generally, when people left the babies with the parents and the babies would feed off the sides of the parents, and the babies always wound up twice the size of babies that were separated. Do you feel that there's a benefit to the babies being by mom that help them, grow quicker, bigger, faster, stronger?
So, yes.
With this species, yes.
With this species specifically, I would say even versicolor. I would say most species. Here's the problem. It's just speculation as to why, but I can tell you, after the thousands and thousands and thousands of babies that we've made, they just come out bigger and healthier and stronger.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. There's probably a number of factors, but hands down, yes. It's like irrefutable at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We've got a couple questions.
Go ahead with the questions, Nanette. I think that this is a great time.
How would you feel and make sure that they all keep eating them together?
So I think that also has something to do with it. We're just ensuring that we're putting more food in there than they could eat. So we know they're getting fed, and it's very obvious to see which animals are kind of falling behind because they don't want to eat their brothers and sisters. They will if there's no prey items available. So we just ensure that there's just constant supply of food. And we also have to keep in mind too, the animals have access to warmer temperatures. So because they're eating more metabolically, they can facilitate that process because they're heating up and cooling down and heating up. So all of that plays a role.
And we actually have a video of a Antilles pinktoe egg sac that hatched with mom inside of a cork tube. And we kind of demonstrate how we separate each one of those 100+ babies into their own little vials, which again is one of those things that can take a whole day, a day's worth of work. Which it's worth it though. It's worth it though.
Jess, you beat me to it. I was going to joke and say, yeah, I watched that video. That was 8 hours of watching you separate.
Yeah.
It's a lot. You mentioned the heat thing, and I've got to bring this up that I've been talking to a couple of people about cave. I know I'm going off topic, and I apologize. The gecko part of my mind is kind of flashing at me.
Let's talk geckos.
We can't. We've got other spider pictures we've got to cover.
Oh, okay.
But I'm going to throw this in real quick. Cave geckos, we were talking about heat and, cave gecko room temperature and And the thought is that, well, babies and maybe even adults can benefit from that additional heat and grow faster, stronger. And I'm buying more and more into that and giving mine a little bit of heat. And I think that that's a big factor of, I'll let you, Nanette, ask that question. I think that that's a big factor, and I'm glad that you brought that up, that babies
definitely
sometimes they need that heat. Crested gecko babies, they do better at 78, 80 degrees. They don't have to be 75 if you want.
Agreed.
If you want. Nanette, you said
There was a question on the screen. I put it up there.
Oh, okay. Are there certain species that do better with mom than others? Good question.
So we're just assuming we're just talking about tarantula species.
Yes.
I would say we've had the best success with every species that we've bred.
So we let most of them hatch with mom, but for the most part, we usually separate them by the time that they're independent and that they're able to eat on their own. But species that we have, not we personally, but species that have been observed in the wild, kind of being communal with each other and being communal with moms, which would be these Poecilotheria species and the Socotra Island blue baboon. Those species in particular, it's one of those species that we kind of replicate natural history where we will allow them to grow with mom, and that seems to have a really positive benefit for them.
Outstanding.
Yeah, I
would
Great say
information.
Yeah.
Most of the magic happens in the sack.
Yeah.
And under those conditions and letting mom brood.
Yeah.
But then after that, it kind of sets them up for full success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a question. Are the babies fast moving when separating?
Oh gosh. Yes.
Luckily,
terrible.
It takes them a lot of energy to go from A to B. But yes, they're very fast.
I mistakenly, I think, added a picture before the I threw that spider in the middle of it, and I wanted to mention that you guys are also working with snakes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yes.
Just it's crazy what you guys are doing. It really is. Tell us a little bit about your snake keeping adventures.
So we just decided to work with hognose last year. And then this year we produced our first clutch after we brumated them.
Fell for it. Yep.
Yep. So that's our first batch of babies for this year. We've got several more hognose that are about to go down for brumation that we'd love to produce for next year. So hopefully we can make double or triple this amount. But this was a fun little experiment for us. And we're learning how tricky some of these can be to get feeding. So
Really?
yeah, we're learning all the tricks as we go, but there are a couple stubborn ones in there. But we've already sold some of these babies because they've come out eating like champs, and they're already 10 grams. Some of our babies,
they hatched twice the weight of an average hatchling. Most of them did.
Yeah, they were ready to sell out of the egg, but of course we fed them 5-6 times.
Yeah,
sure.
Everyone was good.
Why do you think that is? Do you think that there's anything genetic going on, or is it the line? Huh?
No, you got us there. I'm not real. That was kind of a surprise to us.
Yeah.
And since this is our first go round, we do the same thing with our hognose. So we don't keep them in tubs, which is nothing against that, but we do allow them. It's natural for hognose to come up and bask when the sun comes through the clouds. They'll come up and bask, and then they take back down, and then they come back up and they bask, and then they go back down. So we replicate that with all of our hognose and give them that. That being said, we did not let the eggs incubate. We pulled those and incubated them separately, but I don't know. They just came out big.
They're big
How
eggs.
cool is
Big
that?
eggs.
Andrew is saying keep the babies in groups of 2 or 3 and they will eat better.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
We will try that. Thank you. Okay, good to know.
What is this?
So we do like boas. We like Central American boa constrictors. So we've got a couple of those projects going. That particular animal is what they call IMG. So it possesses increasing melanin gene. And as they age, they turn black. And I just find that very appealing. So we got a couple of those guys too.
sounds very, very different. Oops, we're back to the
Yes.
spiders.
Oh, there we are.
What kind?
That's
Sorry
exciting.
about that. What kind
That
is
one,
that?
I hope we can make those. They don't have a common name.
Yeah, I don't.
Amphibius solaris, very large, very bright, vibrant spider from Colombia. Someone produced them this year.
Mm, 8-paws tarantulas.
8 paws. Yep.
Andrea.
Andrea. Shout out to Andrea.
Not very common in the hobby.
No.
Very rare. I believe that was the first U.S. production
Yeah.
last year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that animal right there is probably what, 4 years old, 3 years old.
30 years old.
So a lot of our animals that we have, a lot of people don't even know we have. I bought them as babies when we first started, and they're still not mature yet. You know, but that's how we wanted to do it.
Yeah.
We wanted to make our own stuff.
So animals like that, obviously, and it's not all about price and market and blah blah blah, but animals like that are just going to hold their market price forever because the investment in time.
Sure.
What's that?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That will be a very valuable animal for many years. Yeah.
Oops, I lost it. What is this? Beautiful picture. These pictures are great too.
This is a Halloween spider.
That's Vicularia purpurea, purple pink toe, kind of our mascot.
Wow.
Obviously, yep, those are beautiful. So that's a typical arboreal tarantula setup. Most of our enclosures look just like that. And all you see is a cork hollow, 1 or 2 species of plants. Notice how the cork hollow goes almost all the way up to the top. And leaf litter, bioactive soil, and then bright light.
And do you think that they'll migrate up and down? Is that what you were saying before?
Yeah, good point. So that's why we give them the large tube, because they can thermoregulate up and down and not be exposed. So it's a common myth that tarantulas are photosensitive, which is not true at all. What they are is just sensitive to their environment. You got to think about it. If there's nowhere to go and there's nowhere to hide and there's a bright light on you, you're exposed. If you have a retreat and a hide and you feel safe, you're safe to come out and thermoregulate and be a normal spider, right? So we always say, give them somewhere to go. You'll see them more. Yeah, they're not photosensitive at all.
I like that point.
And
and again, everything that you're saying, I'm kind of throwing into a gecko world kind of scenario with gradients. They're going to be more comfortable and you're going to see better behavior if you give those gradients. Is this a banana spider? He says sarcastically.
So that is another one of those blue spiders. So as they age, they start to turn black, which I think is beautiful. But that's another female of the blue spider, Metallica. She's made a couple eggs for us. Egg sets.
I am going to show my ignorance here. Do males look different than females at maturity?
A little bit. It's going to depend on the species, but there is some dimorphism there. They have longer, wispier legs.
But they're still usually bright blue and yellow, just like the females.
Okay.
Frank's
got a great question.
Frank.
Do you like old world or new?
Agree. We by far like old world, and it's not because they're faster or they have more potent venom.
Old world are the more aggressive, correct?
More defensive.
Yeah.
Yep, they're faster. They have a more significant venom. But we prefer to work with those over New World because their behavior is much more predictable, and they lack urticating hairs. We do not like the urticating hairs.
Say that again.
Okay. So New World animals on their abdomen have a patch of hair that is barbed. And so when they're disturbed, they will flick those hairs into a cloud.
Yeah. Gotcha.
It's like microscopic porcupine quills, basically, or fiberglass.
Yep. So animals from the Americas possess those hairs.
Animals
from Africa, Asia do not.
Have you ever been dusted with The hairs?
all the time.
All the
Oh
time.
no! Oh no!
No.
How
no,
bad
no,
is it?
no.
How long? Can you wash?
Yeah, so no, the best treatment is to take like duct tape and kind of rip it off of the whatever the affected area. But some people react a little bit more severely than others, won't break out in hives and
It's a very severe reaction.
Yes.
Oh, no.
I don't react that bad to it, fortunately, but I like take it personally when a spider flicks hairs at me. It's like, screw you. I'm like, fine, screw you.
Can you tell? Go ahead.
I was going to say real quick, a caveat to that, just like I mentioned with the old world, just they need to have somewhere to go.
Yeah.
It really decreases the amount of hairs you get in the environment if they can just run into a hole and get away from you. So
they're more comfortable with doing that than playing defensive and trying to attack or anything. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. That's cool. Can you tell when it's coming? I mean, I look at my crested gecko. Okay, it's going to jump, and 3, 2, 1, there it goes. Can you tell when a spider is ready to do that?
Sort of. Sometimes they'll lift their back leg, but it's usually pretty quick.
They're very fast.
Sometimes I just look at a species with urticating hairs and I'm like, it's gonna flick at me. I know it is.
Yeah.
Side note, Critter Corner, we do lives every Thursday night at 6:30. That was one question earlier, and now they're asking another question.
Thanks, Nanette. What's the biggest and smallest kind of tarantula?
So the largest species.
Largest species is tied for a species related to that blue tarantula, tied with 2 different species that are from India and Sri Lanka. They can exceed 9 inches in leg span. That's just length. So there's also the Goliath bird eaters, which are about the same 8-9 inches in leg span, but they're probably twice or 3 times the weight of those arboreal tarantulas because they're terrestrial and they don't need to like hang out in trees, but they're massive tarantulas. For the smallest one, I'm sure there's some that exist that aren't in the hobby yet, but the one that I'm aware of is Cirrocosmus elegans. Trinidad dwarf tiger is their little common name. Mature females are about 1.5 to 2 inches leg span. Tiny.
That is tiny.
Baby powder,
here's Andrew is saying if you rub baby powder or cornstarch on your arm, your pores will not let the hairs in. It does help. Good call.
Remember that.
Yeah.
Good call.
This animal is gorgeous. So, well, it's orange. That's why I like it. That's why. Because it's orange. What was I thinking?
So I'm going to nerd out a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because we have an egg sac from this species. So this is one of my favorite species of spiders ever. This is a bromeliad tarantula. What makes them fascinating is their natural history. They live in bromeliads, and their bodies have adapted to live in the axils of bromeliads. So they're very unique. They're beautiful, as you can see. Pachystopelma rufa or just Brazilian bromeliad tarantula is the common name. Babies are stunning. Adults still kind of keep that copper orange pink color. And we've got an egg sac right now.
The species,
Jonathan.
I don't think they've been formally examined by the IUCN, but they're probably at threat of extinction just because of how highly specialized they are. And there's only a couple pockets of these bromeliad forests in Brazil, the coast of Brazil, where they're plentiful within those bromeliad forests, but that's only their only location.
They only inhabit the bromeliads.
Mm-hmm.
This is very unique.
So do you have to be careful when you buy them?
We'll say that, Nanette.
Do you have to be careful when you buy a bromeliad then in the stores? I mean, is there a chance that we're going to bring home a friend?
Probably not, because most of bromeliads that are in stores come from Florida and are just propagated up in Florida.
All right.
Yeah.
You're actually probably more likely to see, I'm guessing you're more likely to see a tarantula in that group of bananas that you just bought than in a
very much so. Or a huntsman or something.
No. Yeah.
Fast.
Whoop, did I? Yeah, there.
Ah.
Oh, what a cool picture.
These are my crown jewel. This is the spider that our logo is modeled after.
Oh, I don't know what I just did. Sorry.
That's okay. But that
Go
is
ahead,
a net casting spider, or the ogre face spider.
Oh, very cool.
They have a very unique method of hunting where they actually construct a net. They hold the net and they throw it to catch the prey item. That's their only method of hunting. They will not eat a prey item without constructing a net and throwing it. This species in particular is from Cameroon.
Did you say that you said that this is your favorite, right? So you have these, and have you seen them cast the net? Have you seen that behavior?
I wish I could pick you up and show you. I've probably got some right now that have nets. Yeah, wow. I'll send you a picture later. But they do. I have video and pictures. They do. They make the net and they just toss it. It's really cool.
That sounds so cool. If you guys have questions, go ahead and put the word. I almost missed this one. Put the word question in front so I don't miss it in all caps. But Andrew is asking, do you worry about pesticides on plants?
Very good question. So a lot of the decor we harvest from our property, but as far as plants, we're getting them from sources that we do know propagate themselves and are
they're meant for vivariums.
They're meant for vivariums. So always ask that. Don't go to Lowe's or Home Depot. Yeah. And if you do, give those plants a peroxide bath. But definitely it's worth it to search online for vivarium friendly plants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's well worth that, 2 or 3 minutes to just clean them off. We do, and I'm paranoid with our bugs, because I don't want to lose a whole colony of dubias or mealworms or something. We'll wash them. I know it's, organic. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they're being washed all over. I still wash them when Nanette does too, when they come here. Go ahead, Nanette.
Somebody's asking if they'll throw a net at you, kind of like they throw the.
When they get to be like 7 foot.
Nope. So the net casting spider is harmless. And that net is only for hunting. They've got exceptional eyesight. In fact, fun fact, that spider has the best eyesight of any spider in the arachnid kingdom.
Yes. And every night they construct a new layer,
a membrane,
a new membrane over their eyes to kind of have a more sensitive vision at night, and then it degrades during the daytime the next day.
Right. So no, they know what they're looking at.
And I think Andrew said something about that, about every night they go through that whole process. What spider is this? This is beautiful.
That is Carabina versicolor. That's one of our favorites, commonly referred to as the Martinique pink toe. We have a lot of pink toes. I treat those like arboreal lizards, to be honest with you, which I know throws a lot of people off, but they act just like lizards. They bask just like lizards do. They like to drink water. They're all front and center. They like to hang out in the plants. Yeah. They're always out. They're great display animals. I love those.
Good beginners.
When they're born, they're blue.
Wow. Good beginners animal?
So, in my opinion, yes. The internet will tell you that they're difficult to keep alive as babies. That's because there's kind of 3 parameters that people need to pay attention to, which is airflow, temperature, and access to moisture. I cannot kill them. We've almost 1,000 this year.
Yeah.
I don't lose any of them. So I don't know.
Heather's saying people keep them too wet and not enough ventilation. There you go.
Seems to be the culprit.
Yeah.
Spot on.
So interestingly, we typically keep our spiderlings with a lot of ventilation plus airflow in the room with fans and whatnot. And I've noticed I've kind of let some of my enclosures get a little bit more wet than I would normally allow them. Not as a test, but kind of because I was confident enough that to know that it wasn't the moisture that was killing them. It was the airflow and the stagnancy that comes from limited ventilation that was killing them. And all those animals survived to adulthood. Yeah.
Yeah, so let me just elaborate real quick. The way tarantulas breathe is by diffusion. So they have book lungs under their abdomen, which is just almost, think of it like layers and layers of paper and
Pages of
book.
a book.
And that works by diffusion. So if you fill the enclosure space with stagnant wet air, then that affects diffusion. And in a sense, they can drown. They're not underwater, but if you think about how book lungs work, it makes sense to me that that's why so many people have problems with pink toes.
That makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
Right.
Even in dry, stagnant environments, you can still experience some issues with breathing.
And it's probably something that somebody's going to go through. They're going to lose their animals. They're going to ask around, and they're going to learn without maybe, unfortunately, I keep tarantulas. Let me try this one. And without that research, they're probably maybe going to lose it, and then they have to learn the hard way.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Angie is asking, do you ever find an escapee on the wall?
Tell them.
I don't want to talk about it. Yeah,
Next question.
Many times.
Yeah, next question. We have. It's my fault.
Yes.
Julie has a really good question here. How do they keep their slings container-wise? How do you guys keep their slings container-wise?
Yep, just going to grab something for you.
Cool.
So we use, when they're young, where are you at? You're up here. So 40 dram vials, ventilated, see the soffit in the top. And then we do the little air holes all the way around. So that's how most of our spiderlings are kept. And then, yeah, we'll use delis, things like this, depending on the size. But we also use these modified AMAC containers here. So this is approximately 4x4x7. And we've got soffits all the way around. So we can mist through the top, and we've got complete cross ventilation. And then we suspend lights over all the vials and the Pioneers or AMAX, whatever you want to call these, so that these guys can also thermoregulate. They're also getting heat.
Oh my gosh. Outstanding. And I like how you do the, multiple different setups for the different animals. I've got to ask you, can you show them again, and can you give a shout out to whoever I know, deli cups, but the other containers, can you give a little shout out on where you're getting those from?
So these dram vials
Yeah.
come from Thornton Plastics. You have to buy them in bulk, or you can buy them singly from MarshallArachnids.com.
There you go. There you go.
These are made by AMAC Plastics. They also have a really fanciful one made by Pioneer Plastics that have beveled edges. Or you can get a really fancy acrylic enclosure at MarshallArachnids.com.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that clearly. Who is that we can get that nice one?
So you can either go to AMAC Plastics, AMAC.
He keeps asking for the third one.
Or Pioneer Plastics. Sorry. Or you can get a fancy front opening like this from MarshallArachnids.com.
There you go. We're going to talk more about that in just a second,
I think
folks.
somebody commented
Did you have?
They love those.
Yeah, they
I think
look
it was
super
Frank
cool.
that said that he's gotten them and he likes them from him.
Okay, let me grab the.
Sorry, you can have them.
No, you're fine. You sent me this.
Oh, hey, there you go.
Is that the enclosure?
That's one of our models. Yep. So that is our 7x4x4. And so this is a re-release partnership with Tarantula Cribs. So we gave Tarantula Cribs our design, and they re-released it through their manufacturer. And we're very happy about that. They did a great job.
How did you say how big this one is? 7? Okay.
Yeah, 7 inches long, 4 wide, 4 high.
Thank you, Boomer Exotics. Thank you very much for jumping in here. Hope you had a good time.
Shout out, buddy.
This looks like an art. This looks like an art picture. Somebody painted this. Yeah.
Spit it out.
It looks like a painting.
Yeah, that one turned out pretty good. So that's one of the species. You know how we were talking about earlier, utilizing like the cooler section and then a warmer section and then a hot section.
Yes.
this species is interesting. So where they live in Africa, it will snow in the winter.
It snows. Right.
But what's interesting is during the day, the sun comes out. There's not much cover. It's just clay and rocky landscape. So they have access to sun. In this species, we will see basking very frequently, but we keep the air, like the ambient temperature, cool, but we give them a hot basking spot, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
Yep, Harpectira pulchripes, or the golden blue-legged baboon. Very unique, very beautiful spider.
When you say it snows, is it because of altitude?
No, it's not very high altitude.
South Africa, southern South Africa.
It just gets cold
okay,
there.
okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And I've seen pictures of like giraffes like covered in snow.
Yeah, more of a temperate climate.
Wow.
But that doesn't mean, it doesn't mean that they can tolerate temperatures down into the 30
Right.
for days on end. It just means that like that's what happens in their environment, and then they have access to warmer temperatures during the day. So we kind of give them that.
That's tricky in that, somebody might look at the temperatures in their area, go on Google and look up, temperatures and see those temperatures, but not realize that, when it gets down that cold, they're finding places where they can, cuddle up and
Right.
stay a little bit warmer.
Little microclimates in their burrows.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Yep.
Oh, there we go.
They're beautiful. What's that?
That's the purple box.
Oh, from a customer?
Yeah.
Nice.
What is this?
Just a picture that we try to ask customers if they get a purple box at home, and
Whoops. I just
send us
lost all
pictures
my
of their
pictures.
setup.
Nice job. Thanks.
I like to see
Let
how
me get
people
that.
are keeping their stuff.
That's super cool when you ask somebody and they bring that picture back to you and you can see it and see how they're
I love
using
it.
it.
Yeah, we try to share it and get their little project out there. It makes us feel good.
They get that picture back here. There we go.
So that is what we're keeping our Vermilia tarantulas in. That's what our gravid female is in right now.
Very simple enclosure. So do they? I think I know the answer, but they're self-regulating through this gradient here, top to bottom,
Yep.
or okay.
So at the top there, it's about 85, and at the bottom, it's about 75.
It's a like button.
So yeah, where they're from in the wild, it's just bromeliad islands. It's literally little islands of bromeliads on sand soil. So you can kind of see that's exactly what I tried to make here. It's like sandy soil, not much else, little bromeliad island, and that's kind of where they're confined to. That's where they spend their time.
Any concerns with the lighting? Do you have any special lighting on these animals?
So we use full spectrum LED on just about everything. On this particular one, we're using UVB, and we're seeing how that might alter her behavior, if any at all, which happy to say it has not. She's no behavior alteration at all. She'll still come out and bask. Right now she's got an egg sac, so she's not very exposed. But that's always kind of been a big question. We know that excessive exposure to UVB degrades chitin, which is what exoskeletons are made out of. But in the wild, almost all of them have moderate access to UVB, but they have the ability to regulate it just like they do heat. So
you commented though,
that one.
You commented though, you made the point that you want to see how that changes their behavior. Rather than making the comment, I want to see if they can be kept healthier and do better. I love that comment. I love the comment, but our good friend Ryan McVeigh, you might know him, but he emphasizes that all the time. It's behavior. It's how they act. It's not just like us. If we're not, in the sun, we're going to eventually get, some health issues. But the first thing that's going to go is depression and stress and
Yes.
anxiety. And so UV has a certain effect on our behavior. I just love that comment, guys. Just love it.
Behavior is a language, and that's what we learn in zoos too.
Yeah.
And obviously it's gonna vary from animal to animal, but behavior tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
For sure.
So Frank, no, we're not going to go 24 hours. I'm not that mean. Although I could probably fill the time with questions. This is fascinating.
Yeah, we could too. So there's another arboreal setup. Just simple. Couple plants, a cork hollow.
Beautiful. And again, this is tarantula?
Yep. That's how most of our breeder tanks are set up.
Oh. So to Critter Corner, are we going to talk about anything other than spiders? No, we're going to talk about other things. So now the selfish part of the show begins, because I want to talk about Clemeri. I'm a gecko person. I really love this previous conversation about the spiders and the other animals that you're keeping. And I learn a lot from these discussions. I really do. Clemeri are one of my favorite geckos, but one of my most frustrating, because I just cannot get down the whole point. We're going to come back, Freelance, in just a second to that question. I can't get down the whole egg collection process, and maybe you can help me out with that, because I've struggled with that forever. I probably just don't have the right tools involved. But you guys, you can see these little jewels, how absolutely beautiful they are. Tell us about your experience with
Those are 2-day-old babies.
What's that?
Those are 2-day-old babies.
2 days old. Oh, wow. And they don't lose the color through maturity. They stay that color all the time. They're little. They remind me. I'm going to stop talking after this and let you guys talk. But
sure. No, keep going.
One of my first forays into rear geckos was seeing a video on these guys, and somebody had them in like a 55-gallon tank and plenty of horizontal branches and everything. And that's all they did was just like a hummingbird, hover. They would jump from one branch to another, face each other, do the little dance and the head bobs and talk, and then gone. And then another one would come up, just like it was addressing a plant or something like that. And just the behavior is so flippin' fascinating, because they're little hummingbirds of the gecko world. So
yes.
What's your experience with these geckos?
Let me just comment real quick.
I
love that you said that, because I was literally watching them today and I was like, they're like hummingbirds. They really are. And I never had that analogy before up until today, before you said this. So that's hilarious.
That is.
But they're so much gecko, so much animal, so much character in a very small package. They're awesome. Super cool.
Go ahead.
When we made the decision to work with reptiles, that was the first.
Yeah,
by far.
Tell us a little bit about their care, and do you experience any problems with them?
A little bit. So for the most part, they're very straightforward. So day geckos require UVB. They require some basking, a little bit of a heat lamp. Clemeri in particular are from isolated pockets of bamboo forests in Madagascar, northern Madagascar. Up until fairly recently, the location of these pockets have been kind of a secret, because they're incredible animals, and no doubt people knew that the hobby would just totally exploit the species if they knew where the location was. But they're very fascinating as far as their social dynamics. So we keep pairs, and in some cases trios, in 12 by 12 by 18 exoteras with vertical and horizontal bamboo. We usually use what's it called, like Sansevieria plant.
Yep.
So lots of plant cover, but also lots of bamboo, and all the bamboo is cracked so they can get in the bamboo and hide, feel safe. But keeping them in more than trios for us has been tricky, because males will obviously fight, and females don't always accept other females. So, and that's going to be a roll of the dice. You have to pay attention and watch them, which usually they're pretty good at letting you know right away if they're not going to get along.
Yeah.
But as far as their care goes, they'll eat anything that moves as long as it fits in their mouth. And they also
their own babies.
They will eat their own babies. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Oh.
But they also like the fruit mix, like Pangea, just like crested geckos do. So a little bit of that. We mix in raw honey and bee pollen with ours. They seem to go crazy for that. Complex, but also very simple little creature. What I'll say now, as far as the egg harvesting goes, we've missed a few because they're very good at hiding some.
Yeah.
But we can't get them to lay in those tubes.
Yeah.
Some breeders can get them to lay in tubes or film cans. We cannot. They seem to really like to lay in the plants. So we have to make it a point to check the axes or the axles of the plants.
Oh,
that's where ours like to lay.
Mm-hmm.
I am shocked, absolutely shocked. If you have splits in the bamboo branches on the ledges, if they're hiding in there, that they're not laying their eggs in there too.
Our first set of eggs was laid in right there in an inaccessible spot in the bamboo. And of course, it was like 2 weeks before we moved our entire operation from Michigan to Tennessee. So I did use pliers to open that up that one time so I could incubate them properly. But since then, for the most part, they lay them in accessible spots.
And here's why I think that is. I think because in the plants, females can get away from other females and males.
Yeah.
They're kind of competing for the cracks in the bamboo. Yeah. But I think the females can go. I'm looking at their cages over here, but I'm pretty sure that's why. There's multiple laying sites and they can be left alone.
Yeah.
So I think that's why they're doing it.
Do you, when they lay their eggs, and I'm going to talk about the plants first, do you take that? Do you just go in and grab the eggs are Tic Tac size? So, and again, these animals, somebody's asking the size, they're about 4 inches, but do you take those eggs and incubate separately?
So the first time, like I said, we were about to move, so I did remove them and incubate them. But the next set of eggs, I allowed them to be incubated in the tank because they were laid in a great spot that was really warm. But unfortunately, my pair, the parents were a little bit cannibalistic when those babies hatched.
Oh.
And luckily, my babies survived. But we learned a valuable lesson that day.
And it's not like they don't have access to food.
They just really like to hunt.
They're very visually acute. So if it moves and it fits in their mouth, it's food.
Yeah. So we've had really good success. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I'm sorry.
You're good. We've had really good success incubating them. We use a really basic still air chicken egg incubator, just monitored remotely with a Bluetooth thermometer. And we incubate them.
Switch.
Yeah, with a smart switch. And our babies are incubated about 82 to 84 degrees. They hatch almost on the dot at about 90 days after we find them or after they're laid.
Feeding foods for the adults and the babies?
They eat pretty much anything that moves, like Ryan said. Small dusted crickets. They will eat dubia roaches, but they do prefer like more active prey. They'll eat any flavor of crested gecko diet, which is great when my cressids refuse a certain flavor or whatever.
They like flies.
Yes.
They love flies.
Black soldier flies.
Oh, black soldier flies. Okay.
Yes.
Soldier flies, bottle flies.
Fruit flies, even the adults will hunt fruit flies.
Yeah, they're pretty
I shouldn't probably say this, but we have day geckos, giant day geckos in our bedroom, 24 by 24 by 36. But if I find a moth outside, a good size couple inch moth, I run upstairs.
They go crazy.
And they'll if they can't get it right away, I have a male and 2 females, which is very odd that I have 2 females. Like you said before, females don't like each other at all.
Yeah.
But they'll chase it, and just the tank will explode. The enclosure will shake and explode with activity. It's so cool.
Yes.
It's great.
It's great enrichment.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. This is a really cool setup view of these Clemeri, of the Clemeri enclosure. So you're saying that they're laying their eggs in just the leaf crevices of this plant?
Yeah.
Or
right in
the
the
snake
axle.
plant? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And you just go in there and pick them out and incubate. Again, I'm shocked that they're not laying in here more often.
Yeah, they used to lay in those warmer ones, but typically lately they've been laying in the plants.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yep, so I was going to talk about that. So I use those for just about everything in this room. So even the tarantulas, we don't rest them on the screen like that for the tarantulas, but those are the mini halogen bulbs
Zilla.
by Zilla, and those are on dimmer switches. I cannot recommend those enough for just about everything. They're incredible.
Is that UV as well? I provide.
They're not.
Okay.
Just halogen. The bulb on the back is Arcadia T5.
Oh, there you go. Okay, sure.
UV.
Sure. Yeah. Sorry. Yep, that makes sense. Halogens don't give off UV. Mercury vapors do, but not to the point there. Okay.
Yep.
So cool. I tell you, folks, Clemeri are so underappreciated. We see a lot of, and somebody mentioned this in the comments in the chat about Williams eye, Lygodactylus Williams eye, the electric blue, and they are so cool. But I don't feel personally, I've kept them both for a good number of years, both of them. I don't feel you get the activity and behavior that you do from the Clemeri, and I think the Clemeri almost match them in color with how vibrant they are. So that's my feel. Soapbox time. So, I've got this slide up here, purple box. I want to know more about this purple box thing.
Yeah, we could talk about that thing. This is an old one. There we go. Let's look at that. Yeah, that's our re-release. Okay, so story time. Okay, back in 2015, I was unemployed, waiting to get anything in the zoo field, but I had spiders, and everything I was keeping them in was just not great. It was just those plastic boxes, and I was like, I need something to keep baby spiders in that is easy to access. And I think I sent you those pictures of what we came up with. I don't know if you threw that on your slideshow.
I am going to do that.
I can pull up on my phone.
I did. Let me do this though. Bear with me for just a second. I think this is what you're talking about. Mr. Technology here is scrambling, so bear with me.
You're good. So I'll just keep talking.
Yeah, go ahead.
So at the time, there were acrylic enclosures on the market, but they all had hinges. So the acrylic box to keep an invertebrate in, it was not a new idea. Let's see what you got. That thing.
Cool.
So that is what we came up with. And I was going to call it the Spider Link because it links together. You put it, we were going to ship it to you flat packed, and you were going to construct it. Everything fit perfect. It was front opening and sliding. It was perfect. But then I didn't have a job and no one knew who I was. So I launched a Kickstarter with a goal of $5,000 and I made about 90. So I failed terribly.
90,000? That's doing pretty good.
Yeah. Yep. That's what got me started. No, I made $90.
$90.
So we failed miserably.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And no, it's okay. Then I got a job as a zookeeper and I didn't care about this anymore. But that's what we made back in 2015. And there was nothing around like that. And now it's funny that you see something very similar offered by Zilla. That what do? You kind of snap it together.
Zilla micro habitat.
Those little micro habitats. Kind of shipped flat pack.
It is
I put that
Zilla.
Yep,
it is
it's
Zilla.
Zilla.
I
It
just
opens
did a
different.
video. I just did a
Yep.
video about Bavaye and putting it in there. Okay, I normally don't do this, and I wish Zilla were here to defend themselves, but boy, how do I say this gently? I'm not going to say it gently. It broke. There were too many gaps, and after 1 month, I threw it away.
So that's why this would have been a bad idea. I'm glad somebody else actually put it into market and decided to go with it. Because when I put this on YouTube and forgot about it, I had hundreds of emails from Chinese manufacturers that were like, can you send us the files? Sorry, your project failed. Send us the files. And I was like, oh, sorry, I forgot about this. And that, anyway, so that's why that was a bad idea. But anyway, fast forward, companies like Tarantula Cribs come around and start making these beautiful front opening enclosures that are acrylic and they're very aesthetically pleasing and they're functional and they don't snap together like this thing. And I was like, hey, that's really cool, but there's some features I don't like. So that's how Purple Box started. I was like, let's take that same general idea because the acrylic box has been around for a long time and let's just make it our own thing. So we did. And that ended up being very successful. Looking back, I wish I would have just went to Tarantula Cribs and just been like, hey, can you make me a box like this? But at the time, we didn't have a name and we didn't have an aesthetic and a following. So I'm glad everything happened the way it did. But recently, we took a break from selling boxes to focus on animals. Now we have 1,000 animals. So it's, yeah. So then I approached Mo from Tarantula Cribs at Tinley and proposed the idea that he takes the box and re-releases it and we do a collaboration. And luckily he was all about it. So that's our acrylic box. But that's how it started.
That is outstanding that you guys came together to make this work for the hobby and for you guys, obviously. Tell me about the features. Tell me about the features that you wanted to see in this container.
All I really wanted was front opening. I wanted it to slide out. That's all I wanted. This whole snap together thing was my brother's idea. My brother at the time was the engineering student at U of M. And he was like, it would be really cool if it just snapped together and you didn't have to use adhesive or cement.
Yes.
And then you can see, instead of rubber bands, we use these little like 8mm U-shaped. So that kind of locked it into place, which it's big and bulky, it looks stupid. But that was the idea. So, and then if something broke, I could just replace it. Send you the piece that broke.
Yeah.
Scratched.
Yep.
That was the idea.
Did you see how I put together the other enclosure? Yeah. That's right. The rubber bands were kind of cool. The problem was the latch on top. There were way big spaces all around, and if I'm going to keep something in a tight enclosure, then I didn't want those small holes. So
right. Yeah, and this, if you notice, this is very thick acrylic.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
And the tolerances were like, there was no need for an adhesive. Honestly, I didn't even have to use rubber bands. Like the way the acrylic snapped together, it was solid. This would have held water. It was very tight.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, it honestly didn't even need those little notches. It just was very tight. But as we know, acrylic is hygroscopic. It bows, it warps. It would have been a disaster.
Nanette is about 5 seconds behind me because she just asked, could you use those for baby geckos? So I'm 5 seconds ahead of you, Nanette.
Tiny itty bitty things.
Well, yeah, like baby clummeri or Bavaye are super tiny, or velvet geckos that are small that need more of the vertical than right. So what sizes do you sell for these enclosures?
Yep. So for the purple box right now, we're doing 7-inch long and tall, and then 12-inch long and tall. 12, 8, 8, 12. There they are.
Thank you. Thank
so
you.
447 8812 1288 and then
So
744.
you could put screen
Now
over.
we've got plans for more, but Tarantula Cribs was so generous and they put this together so fast. I don't want to overwhelm them. So we're just going to run with these for a little while.
Is the bottom, is that another piece of acrylic, and is it purple because purple box?
Yeah, so I knew I wanted a splash of color in our design, but I didn't want the whole thing to be purple because that I wouldn't like that.
No.
This way you can put soil over that or whatever you need to, and you only see purple kind of coming through the sides. So it's just a touch. It's enough that people know it's ours.
Nice. Again, branding, you know, if you're doing this, do it the right way with branding. Love that.
Agreed. Yep, they did a great job on this packaging, so very happy with that partnership.
Beautiful. So I'm thinking,
the orange box.
you know, I know, big time, Stenodactylus, not Stenodactylus, Spirodactylus, sorry, Gonatoides, Ligodactylus, the small micro gecko breeders are using these, and they don't take up a whole lot of room. I wouldn't say that they're stackable, but you can put them on like a baker's rack and go to town that way, multi-shelved baker's rack. This is just a perfect enclosure.
They do make, I think Tarantula Cribs does have some stackable ones. I don't know. I know you can do that. See, I like to put lights over my stuff. So stacking to me is never my thing, but I know he does make one that you can do that. He also makes one that has a screen top. So it's still acrylic, but it's got a fine mesh top if you want to put a low wattage sheet bulb or something. Yeah.
Now, looking at these, they do have the ventilation. I'm going to see if I can zoom in a little. Okay, but I was going to say that if you had to, you know, for something so small, you could just put a little screen over it.
That's what I said.
Yeah, a lot of people put that no-see mesh over it until the babies are big enough to where they can't get out.
Yep, perfect, perfect. Very, very cool. Purple box, folks. I have probably another 24 hours, 22 more hours of questions, but I think Nanette said that she's tired. We're going to have
I want a brownie right now.
Nanette wants a brownie.
Me too.
We need a brownie. We need some water.
Coffee.
I'm going to ask you one more question. I'm going to ask you two questions. One is where do you see Marshall Arachnids in 5 years? Okay. And I'll hold the second question just real quick.
Go for it. We've changed so much since we started, and just in the last year or two alone, that it's really hard to answer that question.
Yeah, I mean, God, one day at a time. we love. What I'll say is this: we love what we're doing. We're always open to collaborations. We're going to work with new species. I am, and I don't want to take this, I don't want this to go down a dark path or anything, but I'm very worried for the future of the industry.
Yep.
Just because of my background and what I know. I know the other side. I've worked with the other side. So I want to advocate and promote responsible keeping of all species and also conservation. So I don't know what that looks like, but it's all very important. It's important for all of us to take that seriously, just because we are so close to not being able to do this anymore. I think closer than people realize.
Yep.
So advocating for that message. I mean, we want to keep going for as long as we possibly can because we love this and we love the animals. And so I don't know what that looks like, but I know we just advocate for that. Everyone take it seriously. Yeah.
And it's hard and something should be done. I think that people are just waiting for, you know, give us some direction, you know, and we could have a 2-hour discussion on that alone as far as how we can benefit, how we can impact, because it's not all about environment and, you know, losing Lygodactylus williamsi because of intrusion, into their habitat. It's more about politics and crap like that. I'll say it bluntly.
Yeah.
Than anything. So, but a great call, great point. Absolutely. We had a question pop up here. Let me see if I can find it. Are you taking any, and this leads to my question, are you taking any neon geckos to Tinley?
Yes. Well, that's what we're waiting on releasing them for. We're going to take them to Tinley. They're Jessica's babies. She doesn't necessarily want to ship them. So we're going to take them to Tinley. And then, not that they'd be, it's not harmful to ship them. We ship, we're very comfortable with that, but we would rather not.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're going to take them to Tinley. Yep.
And I want to ask John what time you're getting there, because I'm going to be there 5 minutes before you. So I'll wait at the booth with them in my hand saying, yeah, you're 5 minutes late, buddy.
There will be plenty to go around.
Cool. Are you bringing babies or are you bringing pairs?
Lots of babies. This year was very successful.
Outstanding. Beautiful animal, and you guys deserve all the best for those, your spiders, everything that you're doing. Your hognose, very, very cool project there. Those frogs, very cool. Tell us how people can contact you. What's the best way to contact you guys? Rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Email for sure.
Facebook.
Email or Facebook. Yeah, sometimes things get lost on Instagram, but yeah, Facebook, email. Some people somehow are finding my phone number. So I guess if you find that works. I don't know how you got that, but
we're also on Morph Market.
Yep.
There's plenty of options.
Frank the Tank has done another fantastic job and shared your links. Not on the screen, but he's constantly been sharing them in the chat. Thank you again.
You are awesome,
Frank.
Or you are more than
Frank
awesome.
is
Yeah.
awesome.
So Frank, if you want those at Tinley, if you want those Clemeri, I'll let you have them before me.
Only if we get to
I
meet
guess.
Frank the Tank.
Yeah, exactly.
We have to be able to meet you.
That's right.
I'm going to say this again. We could go all night, and I'd love to have you guys for a second show if possible, and we'll get a little bit more in depth on some of these. It'd be a blast. I want to thank you guys for tolerating this much time and all of these questions and me blabbing for the first 10 minutes in the show. This has been really a fantastic show. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing all this information. Thank you very, very much.
No, thank you guys. We love you guys. We're fans. We're looking forward to the Christmas event and already looking forward to our next conversation. So thank you guys.
It'll be our pleasure entirely. Thank you very much. Everyone, good night. Enjoy your evening. We'll see you next week. 6:30.
Good night, everybody. Love you guys.
Bye-bye. I can't see the screen.